Vertigo, a feeling of dizziness, a swimming in the head.
Jake, action.
There's the set. Yeah, I look up, I look down.
I don't want to die. There's so many times she says I must die.
I couldn't move. It's no big thing. I just, for a second there, I couldn't move. I'm sorry. I was in the coffin. I closed my eyes.
I let you change me. Will that do it? If I do what you tell me, will you love me?
Yes.
Yo.
Yeah, boy.
Welcome to the show.
Yeah. We should do one where it's just like air horns. Like,
Yeah.
Yeah, boy. Hey, what's up, guys? Welcome back to the show.
DJ Khaled.
Oh man, do it. Just leave this part in. Just leave it in. Sleazoids. Welcome to the show. We're here. We're feeling it. We're in it.
This is a special
Your boy's back.
only episode.
Yeah, your boys are back.
You guys
Well-
get the special intro.
Yeah, you guys get the personal touch.
That's right. You're paying, you get it all.
Hell yeah. Welcome back to another episode. I don't even need to give you the show description in this episode. You guys are patrons. You know what you're here for.
Yeah.
You're here for the movies. You're here for the sleaze. You're here for the
That's right.
the good time.
And this one we brought both like prestigious and sleaze.
We
it seems, on this round.
we brought the prestige classic and like a literal sleazy remake of it.
Yeah.
Which is going to be a lot of fun to talk
kind
about.
of fused with Rear Window a little
Yeah,
bit too, right?
yeah.
Just kind of the moments. Granted, I haven't seen Rear Window, but just as he was doing the
There's
binocular
definitely at
things.
least one direct reference for sure.
Yeah, absolutely.
So, patrons, you guys would have last heard from us 2 weeks ago, where we would have been talking Star Wars and Flash Gordon. If you haven't heard that episode, you're paying for it. So go back 2 episodes ago, listen to Star Wars and Flash Gordon. It was good. It was a good talk. It was good fun.
Yeah.
We had a hard time talking about Star Wars because it's
just so many. Yeah.
It's so.
How many
it's-
times have you heard about Star Wars?
Yeah, man. But
we have so much love for it. We had to talk about it.
But we had a lot of fun talking Flash Gordon, which is a film neither of us
Yes.
had seen before. So that was a lot of fun. And last week,
We just
you guys would
what
have
did we
heard
do?
us talk with Anya
Yep.
Stanley, where we talked Taxi Driver and the Video Nasty Abel Ferrara film, The Driller Killer.
I love that term. By
Video
the way.
nasty.
Video nasty. Learning that was just a great thing.
we need to pivot. We need to rebrand.
Yeah,
This is now the
this-
Video Nasty podcast.
Yeah, exactly. We'll just have a bunch of AKAs as this goes.
Yep.
You know, Sleazoids, AKA
Yep.
Video Nasty.
There we go. Pivoting. Anyway, this week we're not talking Video Nasties. However, this week we're going to be talking for the first time on the show, and probably not the last time, we're going to be talking Alfred Hitchcock, the king of suspense, the dude who brought the sort of sweeping melodrama and Hollywood romance into the world of perversity and provocative territory, if not necessarily in terms of direct content, in terms of his thematic content, and his characters. He kind of pinned the darkness surrounding a lot of Hollywood men at the time.
Yeah.
And
That's what's great.
He mined their stories for sadness that other filmmakers wouldn't have.
For sure. And
which
he
made
didn't need like and as much as I love it, such as things in Body Double where it's like, you know, Brian De Palma's very just visceral feel of everything.
Yeah.
Hitchcock is very laid back a little bit, you know? Like he's trying.
See, that's funny because watching it now, it does feel subtle. But at the time, like he was doing stuff that
for sure.
didn't, right?
Granted,
So-
this is also and I'm a little ashamed to say it, my first Hitchcock film.
Yeah, Jamie's a little baby.
I'm
so
a little
like-
basic. That's
yeah,
right.
He's making his way though.
I'm getting there.
We're working on him.
Yeah, we're exactly. I'm getting there.
But this is his first Hitchcock, and
Oh, unbelievably good.
Why?
So that's why you call him a master.
yeah,
You know
lived
what I
up to
mean?
all the hype.
It
Yeah,
was one of those, exactly, because it's one of those things where you hear about a bunch of films that it's just, you know, these are fives, these guys were the masters or whatever, and I'm always like, okay, we'll see what happens, but like, I was blown away. I couldn't believe some of the shots that he gets in this film, just, yeah, it's unreal.
in terms of visual camera work, the dude was a pioneer. And
And this came out, what year?
this would have been 58.
58, Jesus. Like
even movies
Oh,
that
60s.
later came out in the mid 60s wouldn't have the visual panache that films that,
It looks
that his have.
fantastic.
Again, all of the great films that you would eventually watch in the 70s that have all this very stylish, very introspective camera work were people who studied Hitchcock.
Yeah.
So, you can basically owe a lot of this kind of stuff to him at the time. And, I mean, you would also find dudes like John Ford and Howard Hawks who are also doing interesting stuff in Westerns and other genre stuff. But Hitchcock really brought it in. He really modernized these kinds of styles and pioneered a lot of camera techniques that we now consider the things that are still working for films today,
Yeah.
to the point where when you see them in an older film, you're just like, wow, is this a 2018 movie? Like, holy
Yeah.
shit.
Yeah, exactly.
But yeah, so we're going to be talking Hitchcock today. And as Jamie already sort of mentioned, we're going to be pairing it with Brian De Palma's Body Double, which is a really interesting film in the larger oeuvre of De Palma, simply because it's one of his
softcore porn version of Vertigo.
Yes. De Palma had been trying to, his entire career, basically he learned all the lessons from Hitchcock, and Body Double was the most literal his Hitchcock references ever got, other than, paying quick homage. Like we already talked about him for Phantom of the Paradise, and there's a big old Psycho reference in that's good. And again, a lot of the camera work that he, used in Phantom of the Paradise was borrowed from Hitchcock. But Body Double is almost a direct riff on the plot of Vertigo, but
definitely.
with a very
Just obsession.
distinctly different effect, which we will get into when we eventually get into it, because
Kind of just literalizes what Vertigo's almost saying in the undertext.
yeah, that's sort of it, that Vertigo
Yeah.
is saying, going to some really dark thematic places, and Brian's like, what if I just take it to those dark places?
Yeah, exactly.
What if I just
We're
have the
gonna
movie
go there.
set there?
Yeah, we're just gonna go there. I don't want people. If they're not thinking about this, we're going there.
But yeah, so those are the two films we're going to be talking about today. So I guess we'll just get into it.
Let's do it.
Vertigo.
Well, it's a cinch. Here, I look up. I look down. I look up. I look...
What was the strange attraction that brought these two together, in spite of the dark forces that tore them apart? The specter from the past that drew her to the ancient headstone in the mission graveyard. The compulsion that drove her relentlessly to the point of no return.
All right, we are talking Vertigo, the 1958 film noir psychological romance thriller.
So much to this film.
Yeah,
It really is.
directed by the late great Alfred Hitchcock. The master, the all timer, the dude who probably is the GOAT, but he's such. But people now think of him as such a boring choice for the GOAT that you go back and you watch
that
it.
go-to guy.
But then you go and you watch one of his movies and you're like, okay, yeah, but the GOAT, right?
Well, that's
like,
the thing. I was saying in the intro, it was one of those things where I was like, I don't know if it'll hit me as hard, just because it's been so long. I've been hearing about these films for forever, and this guy
seeing them
himself,
referenced in everything,
right?
Yeah.
So I thought it'd be kind of almost ruined in a way, at least some of the magic. But like, his direction is just so on point, and the way that he paces his characters, the film itself, the music, everything. It's captivating throughout, even in a story that doesn't have a lot of action. Honestly, if any, really. I mean, there's moments where things go down, but there's not. There's no giant gunfights, anything like that.
Nope.
Nothing like Driller Killer from last week or anything like that.
Yep. Well, Vertigo stars James Stewart, as, what's his name? Detective Scotty Ferguson.
Yeah.
John Scotty Ferguson. A retired,
Strong name.
or I mean, I guess a wanting to be retired San Francisco detective.
Yeah.
Who suffers from what we call acrophobia, or I guess it's a fear of heights. I didn't know that was what it was called, actually.
Yeah, me neither.
Maybe it's not called that anymore, and maybe that's why.
I can relate, because fuck heights.
No, not crazy about him.
No, not crazy about him. I can relate to the kind of the dizziness that he gets. Obviously, not the insanity that he eventually becomes, but
Yeah, there's a double meaning with Vertigo.
yeah.
here.
I just don't like heights.
Yeah. So yeah, it opens with like a really cool chase scene, a rooftop chase scene where he kind of falls, and Hitchcock really goes pedal to the metal with the filmmaking, because he gets a sequence where Scotty is really fucked up by the rooftop heights, basically, essentially.
Yeah. Because of the incident with the cop.
Yes, well, we're actually talking about the incident with the cop. So I think they realize here that he's like, oh shit, it totally paralyzes him, which is what the cop comes to save him because he's paralyzed. He's like, dog, why aren't you just getting up?
Yeah.
And then the cop falls, and it's his fault.
Yeah.
I mean, not entirely his fault. Again, he does have a legitimate fear.
But he can't come to terms with it. He can't seem to reach out, and all he really needed to do was grab his hand. He wouldn't even move.
And from what I understand,
he feels guilty.
This was the first ever use of the dolly zoom.
Really?
That I think they actually called it the Vertigo effect because of the movie.
Oh, that's so awesome. That's crazy.
The bit that you would see repeated in films like Jaws, and obviously, I mean, just tons of other Brian De Palma films and all kinds of films. It's a great effect, that one where you...
perfect for like showing a fear of height. I mean,
yeah,
so that's what you feel. You just kind of feel like it's never ending, you know.
Yeah.
And then I think the
and
movie
trapped.
and I think the movie even mentions that there's that kind of idea of I think it was actually, I don't know if the movie or if it was an idea that was kind of grabbed with Louis C.K., where he had an idea in his show where it was like you have vertigo or a fear of heights because it's almost easy, like it's almost too easy to yourself, find yourself falling over that kind of height. And it's almost a lack of trust within yourself, and I don't know, he might have that, because he's guilt-ridden from the cop's death.
Right, and then it gets intertwined with his fear, and then all of a sudden it's both.
Physical fear, right?
Yeah, and then you're like, whoa.
Yeah.
Not a great feeling.
Exactly.
But yeah, basically what happens to him is, an old friend comes to him and is like, look, I think my wife is being possessed, and he gets this great line about the idea that do you think that the dead can come back to haunt us? There's this idea that this old, or I mean, I guess she's not an old woman, she's a young woman. She killed herself when she was 26 years old because she had a child with I guess she was a mistress of a dude who had a wife. She had a child with him, and the dude took the child and cast her away, basically. And obviously she was very heartbroken by that, and she killed herself at a very young age. And I guess she's the great grandmother of his current wife, who he thinks.
And this is the woman in the portrait, right?
Yes,
with the necklace.
Yeah, I forget her name. It's like Cornala or Corlana, something like that.
Yeah, I have it written down. But.
Yeah, and so she's the woman in the painting. She's got the red jeweled necklace. And this old friend of Scotty's basically is like, look, my wife Madeline is being possessed by this lady, and I don't really know what exactly it is that she's doing when she's being possessed, but she's acting weird, she's going places, and she's having like blank time, basically.
Yeah, she doesn't remember doing these things.
Exactly. So Scotty seems a little questionable at first. Like at first he doesn't believe it, but then he's also he's also retired, or he wants to be retired, so he doesn't really want to do it. But he kind of gets a look at the girl, and then he's like, hot damn, I guess I'm going to do it.
Maybe I can take the case.
Yeah. And
then what's interesting is the film kind of like, at a certain point, you're like, dude, this is all you now. You know?
like this is not detective work ananymore.
Yeah.
Like now you're
this is an infatuation. This is an obsession.
And I mean, to be fair to him, Kim Novak,
Heartstopper. Like, honestly, yeah, gorgeous woman. My God.
Yeah, and. So he starts like following her around, right?
Yeah.
That's what he does, and this is one of the most aped scenes in Hitchcock's career, is this sort of like suspenseful stalking sequence, this very voyeuristic look. This is a thing that Hitchcock has always been obsessed with in his career, because obviously as a dude who's very in tune with his camera, he's a dude very engaged with the idea of watching and looking, and again, as a dude who's so into composition and framing, and he thinks a lot about what he's watching and what he's looking at. So obviously his characters sort of have that anxiety too, and that's what he brings to the film. And obviously it's a very unique thing for film because the viewer is also doing that, which is something he literally gets at, which you haven't seen, but in Rear Window, that's literally what Rear Window is about. It's a dude, a photographer who's got he's like immobilized because I think he's a war photographer or something, and he broke his leg, so he's stuck in his house, and he's like, I want a story, like I need something, I'm so bored. So he starts looking out his window, and he sees all these different stories happening with his neighbors and stuff like that. So all of a sudden, the camera starts moving, and he's looking here, and he's looking
like
over there. Exactly, he's going into a different movie every single time. And what eventually Hitchcock interrogates in that film is the idea of this dude just wants that movie so bad that he's almost willing to make it up. And that's sort of what happens. He starts sort of like trying to apply stories even though he doesn't know the full picture. And eventually he does catch a murderer, but it doesn't seem necessarily because it was for a moral reason. It seems that it was just because he was bored. Right. He caught a murderer because he was bored. Because again, if he was just shooting photography, if he wasn't immobilized, he wouldn't have caught that murderer. That's just kind of the thing. So because he was so... And that's sort of like what Hitchcock is interrogating all the time, is the sort of moral watching. But also our impulse to want to do it. Obviously, large amounts of people want to do it.
There's something inherently just entertaining, and I don't know if entertaining is the exact right word, but there's something that it's captivating. Exactly. Where it's just like like watching somebody stalk somebody for whatever reason, because there's a lot of tension there automatically. There's no way you
Honestly,
can't feel
dude,
tense. What if he gets caught? What if that person sees him? What if there's just so many degrees to it that are odd, and then the fact that you're also watching this person watch somebody else.
Exactly.
There's so many layers to it.
It's so easy for the camera to get you in tune with a character who is watching something, because the camera a lot of time is trying to replicate that subjective experience. And if you're watching and then you're watching a character watching, all of a sudden you are really invested in what he's watching. And a lot of the time I'll find myself, the way that Hitchcock will film, I'll myself peek around the corner. I'll be like, what's happening over there? I want to see.
Show me the other thing, man.
Come on, move the camera. Get it going.
For sure. He is truly a master of suspense. They were not selling him, big in any way when they were telling me that, because this scene, and also the music.
Yes,
it does such a good job of swooping in and out to make you kind of uneasy, but also there's an intriguing force that the music brings as well, where it's just keep going. Maybe some answers will come to you, but it's also very very dark and ominous.
Bernard Herrmann did the music for this, and Bernard Herrmann is an all-timer.
He
did Taxi Driver. He did Citizen Kane.
Jeez, masterpieces up the ass here. That's crazy. That's awesome.
I think De Palma eventually actually hired him to do his movie Sisters, which is another Hitchcock riff that he kind of did.
I think it was this one or Taxi Driver that was actually dedicated to him at the end too. I don't know if it was.
I think it might have been Taxi Driver.
Oh, it must have been, because Taxi Driver would have come after
a little bit later.
Yeah.
But what's really interesting that separates Vertigo though from the rest of Hitchcock's work in particular is that because Hitchcock is such a very conscious stylist, a dude who's very cerebrally aware of the choices he's making visually. Again, a lot of that, sort of like what we were talking about with Driller Killer, is that doing a very heavy style like that, a lot of time your movies can feel not necessarily personal, because you're so conscious and you're thinking so much about the choices that you're making. There doesn't feel like a free sort of feeling to it. Vertigo is the film that is all free feeling. It's one of his most genuinely romantic films. And it's so fucked up because he's in love with a fabrication. It's about being in love with something that's fake and something that's not real, something that's consciously made by somebody else. This is being in love with movies. This is being in love. It's unbelievable. And again, he doesn't get at that in any sort of literal way. It's all just implied, theme and form, and it's wonderful. And I guess we'll get into the actual story. I guess.
Sure.
Because we talked about it a little bit.
He's such a master of his technical work. You could talk about the filmmaking itself.
Well, exactly. But the reason that this dude falls in love with something that's fake is because he's so captivated by this dude's wife, Madeline, who we later find out in the film is actually an actress being paid by the husband to play his wife.
Yeah. So that he can kill.
Kill her, basically. Yeah, that's the idea. So what happens is he thinks that he's following this dude's wife, and he's falling in love with her. But what he's falling in love with is a blatant fabrication. Exactly. Yeah. He's falling in love with a look.
Yeah, that especially.
A look that this girl is putting on, and a personality that she's made up.
Yeah, I feel like that's a big theme, too, in both these films.
And about a girl who needs a hero.
Yeah, that too. Yeah, and that's another theme in both these films.
She's everything to him.
Yeah, that's another theme in both these films. It's kind of like these guys, when they're doing the stalking, they almost see themselves as like protecting them from whatever bad might happen around them, even though it's like, dude, you're kind of becoming the bad that you're trying to protect them from.
Because it's all projection. They're basically showing you their fantasies by projecting it onto these people.
Yeah, what I find interesting too is that it's like, sure, you know, with Vertigo, I found it a little bit more romantic within the love relationship. Body Double, it gets a little bit more just purely superficial and physical, I find.
Right, which we'll get into, because I think that's very intentional.
But yeah, for sure. Especially where it leads.
Yeah.
But with Vertigo, it's still, the initial thing is just seeing a absolutely drop-dead gorgeous woman and just assuming that she's like the best person in the entire world for you. Because it seems like he just falls in love instantly without even talking to her. So I can only assume he just goes, that's a hot
and then
lady.
The fact that she's putting on a story where she needs him and where...
Right, and it's all fabricated.
Yeah, exactly.
And he's just... And that's what he becomes obsessed with, too. It's really... Because eventually he tries to transform her back into the person that he loved, which is just a horrendous.
Yeah,
like
that's the few. That's where
sequences.
This gets weird, because after sort of
you
stalking
like
her,
him kind of at first,
you do.
And then it's like, oh, I don't know.
I mean, Jimmy Stewart's a pretty likable dude.
Yeah, definitely. Jim Stewart. Like,
and you think he's being a little weird when he's watching her, but then you see that his feelings are genuine. Although he keeps kind of pushing away Midge, who seems like a really nice girl.
And that's his ex-fiance.
Something like that.
Right?
It seems like they were past. They were going to get married in the past.
And I think that there's like an
and he's
excitement.
so oblivious to the fact that she's so in love with him.
Oh yeah, and I think that I think there's also an excitement that he finds with Madeline, that he just doesn't find with what's her name? I can't remember. Midge. Because it seems like although she is much more intelligent, she's much more put together in the sense of she has her own shit together. She has a career. She has like
she's not a fabricated look. And and she doesn't need a hero.
I read somewhere and I kind of agreed with it. It was like I think he viewed her as more of like a maternal person. Like it seemed like every scene he
more
was
independent and stuff.
And he was like she would be taking care of him, trying to console him. Meanwhile, then he'd just instantly go off to Madeline and do all the things that he was doing. I guess you could call it passion, but for me, it's I think more of an obsession, an unhealthy.
Well,
obsession.
that's just it. I think it starts out at that way, and
I guess it turns into love.
It's odd because
she really starts to respond.
Well, because he mixes the work and the personal at the start, which is just a messy way to get into it eventually. But his feelings are very, very real. But he just doesn't realize what his feelings are for, and that's where it gets really twisted. When they do go through with the plot, and Madeline, I love going back and watching this performance now, knowing the ending too, where you go and she goes, "I guess it's time." Like she almost seems sad about it too, because she's almost in love with this story that they're putting on too.
And she knows she has to go up and fake her.
Exactly, she knows that it's over. She's got to go up and fake her death.
Yeah.
But she seems sad about that. She seems like she's sort of interested in this relationship too. So that's what happens though. Is she goes up into the tower saying, "Don't follow me, don't follow me." And he follows her, and he gets vertigo.
Yeah,
and
so he can't continue to follow her.
Yeah, so it really messes them up, which gives them enough time to switch the body double to move Judy, who is the actress's name, move her out of the way and push Madeline out of the tower, where it looks like she right after she gave like some sort of like suicidal indications,
right,
making him the plant, that the witness to a suicide, so that the husband could get away with it.
And what's interesting too is that at first they obviously don't tell you that she's not dead. Like the movie kind of puts you in that mystery box a little bit.
Oh, and
I love that
the
they have her
psychological
scream.
breakdown that he
Yeah,
has.
I love that
like,
they have her scream because it adds that layer of like, well,
Why
if she
would you
committed
scream?
suicide, why would she scream? But my brain just kind of overlapped it and was like, well, let's just continue with the story. So then when it's revealed that, you know, he finds what's her real name? Judy. That she acts in such a way that it's like, is the movie doing this? Like, is the movie saying that this is just a woman that actually looks like her, or are we insane? Like, what's going on here? So it starts to play tricks on you, which is a really
because
cool thing.
the part that happens immediately after she dies is like that crazy psychological sequence that goes all colors
sequence?
and the dreams and stuff.
Yeah, and animation, which was really cool to just splice in there.
Because again, all of a sudden it's tied in, as you were saying, the guilt over the cop, the vertigo that he already experienced, but then it happens again with someone he thinks that he's in love with. So then it
just keeps killing. Like,
he at this point he's like a complete madman inside of his head, and to like Jimmy Stewart's performance really, I think, gets at that, especially when we get to some of the close of the film where he is just
he's gone.
He's wild.
He's off his rocker by the last 10 minutes. Like,
yeah, but what gets really twisted is the bit before we get there, which you mentioned, which is where he tries to turn her back into the image
in the Empire Hotel sequences with like the green neon coming in, and like and it's almost like
because he sees Judy again. That's the thing. Is Madeline dies. The actress who was playing Madeline goes on living her life, and he sees her in the same spots that he saw Madeline, and he starts having like that deja vu. He's like, "Am I fucking crazy, or is this the girl that I fell in love with?"
Right.
But just doesn't quite look like her, and she's not quite acting like her. And I was like, because she wasn't fucking real.
Yeah, exactly, dude. Gotta sit him down.
Yeah. So, but then Judy obviously had real feelings for him too, because she's like, I do want to like continue this. But it gets really twisted when all of a sudden he's just like, look, I like you, and I think that we have a thing here. I feel a connection with you, like that real feeling that I had for Madeline. But you have to look like her, and you have to act like her. And Judy is like
first,
rightfully, she's like, holy shit, are you serious?
Yeah, at first, absolutely not. You know, she's just like,
you want to turn me into her.
Yeah, exactly.
Because again, he's in love with the image. He's not in love with her as a person. It is the image of her and the fake story she put on.
Right. And I don't know if does she mention a somewhat of a past with a relationship? Because it seems like after a while she just kind of gives in so that she can feel this love that she did have for a brief moment with him, even though it was fabricated. She's like, well, it's better than loneliness.
Yeah, because both of these people are lonely. Both of them have had real, genuine feelings,
which is scary as hell. The fact that it's better than loneliness, even though it's like, well, it's a lie, but it's better than just sitting down, you know, just having nobody. So it's just like that's some sad.
Well, because
shit.
and that's where Kim Novak's performance gets really devastating because she has to confront the fact that he's not in love with her. No. He's in love with the performance that she was putting on,
metaphorically.
Yeah,
just to become. Become Madeline,
to experience that like superficial, to just see him look at her in
the
like
way that he did prior,
exactly. That's what happens is she puts the clothes on, she gets the hair back, she looks exactly like Madeline again, and she seems happy.
She even comes out in like smoke and stuff, almost like it's like a ghost coming back or something like that. It's like yeah.
And James Stewart is just so enamored by that, and it almost seems like it could possibly work, except for the fact that obviously Judy is still not telling him the truth, that she, of what actually happened, and that's what ends up happening is James Stewart keeps pulling at the threads to the point where he realizes what actually happened and that he was being manipulated the whole time.
Well, because she also makes a conscious choice to wear that
and to not tell him, too.
Right, but then to wear the necklace. That is what clicks him into thinking, this is
mistake,
actually like. So I wonder if that was. Do you think that was intentional? Like, because
I don't think that the film wants us to think that was intentional.
Like, do you think she wasn't thinking? Like, she was just like, he won't notice this, or this isn't anything. I'm not even thinking about it. I'm just putting on this necklace. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, and it might have been a bit of like another possession thing that she might have just thought that like
consciously in a way.
yeah, just like that
Yeah.
she sort of picked it up by playing her character, or that she
Sure.
thought that, you know. But yeah, that's what eventually gives it away, is that she's wearing the necklace of the the great grandmother that is on the portrait in the museum that he sees, and that's what does it. He's like, holy shit, she's wearing the necklace of Madeline's great grandmother,
who she would go to look at.
Exactly.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
this is the same girl. I'm not crazy. This is literally the same woman.
Yeah.
And then he gets the story out of her that they. I mean, not really. He basically kind of puts the pieces together and takes her up to the tower
until she's pretty much forced to tell him the truth.
Yeah, and he's driving, and I forget that line that he has, but something about how like I'm finally gonna put the past to bed or something.
Yeah,
like
and he
that.
also says he's like, I'm not gonna be haunted anymore. And stuff
Yeah,
like
exactly.
That. Like he's really he's out there at this point.
He is like a
He's
total
lost
madman
it.
at
Yeah,
that point.
He's totally lost it. He's trying to. He just needs this to be wrapped up so he never has to think about it again.
Yeah, so he takes her up into the tower where Madeline committed suicide, quote unquote.
Right.
And he's freaking out at her, being like how like this is all fabrication, blah blah blah. And I was like, no, duh, brother.
Yeah.
But you're the only one shocked by this.
And you're the only one still like having this obsession and making it
Yeah.
into this terribly dangerous thing.
Yeah, and Judy kind of gives him one last plea. She's like,
Because
no,
Judy would just love him.
exactly.
Like that's all. Like
Judy actually is in love with him for him.
and he's just in love with the idea of this other woman who
Exactly.
doesn't even exist.
So Judy makes a plea, and she's like, "Guy, come on,
Yeah.
like this could be a thing." And then he at the very last second where he's finally like, "Oh, okay, do you know what? Maybe this could be a real thing." And he that thought goes into his head. He considers it. And then the nun comes up into the tower,
Yeah.
scares the shit out of Judy, and
think
Judy
it-
falls in the exact same place that Madeline
Yeah.
committed suicide.
And do you think that it was kind of the scare from the nun? Like I found that she had this. It was just like a black.
was a shadowy figure,
shape.
yeah.
And I thought of death. Like I just thought of, because I think she also has some dialogue when they're on the beach and she talks about a black corridor.
It did
where
feel
was like,
ghostly,
she
too,
knew
yeah.
that if she was gonna walk into that darkness, that was death and that was the end of her.
Yep.
And so when I saw the nun
I
have
think-
that black mass, I was like, I think
Absolutely,
that might
I
be,
think that's true.
yeah, because that ending, man, I sat there for a little bit, like going,
Yeah.
wait, like, because that's it.
Gotta be one of the darkest Hollywood endings, because that's
For
it. That is the last
real.
scene. It's him looking down.
And that's it.
Again,
crazy.
he's overcome his vertigo, but there's no way he's overcoming that guilt.
Yeah, exactly.
Because he brought her there.
Yeah.
And
And now
it
it's
was all his
technically the
fault.
third person. Technically, the second one was the wife,
a
and
fake
he
one,
didn't know. But like in his mind, he's been through 3 things that are technically all his fault, to do with his fear of heights, and also I guess fear of anything.
His
to
own
be
weird,
real.
pervy romanticism.
To have real love. Like it's almost
Yeah.
like he's scared of it.
Yeah.
It's an odd thing that he goes through.
Again,
in this
he
film.
wants to live in a fantasy, and when the fantasy says, "Hey, look, you stop, like you could have something real," and he's
For
like,
real.
"Oh, maybe,"
It's there.
and then it's ripped away from him
Yeah.
by his own hand.
Yeah, absolutely. And I heard
Super
too
dark.
that Hitchcock uses the color green to represent death in the film. And there's one scene where they're in the hotel room or her room. I don't know. It was a hotel, but she lived there, right? So I don't know what that was about. But anyway,
Rich people in
Yeah.
the 50s, you know,
Yeah,
whatever.
there you go, whatever. But there's that great scene where it's like silhouetted, and it's just her like blackness there, like it's just total darkness, kind of like
Yeah.
the nun. She's just like a black mass, and I think that was like kind of her death into coming back to being Madeline, because then after that they even have that circle kiss where it's like against the green backdrop. It
Yeah.
goes back to the ranch, I believe, briefly. Like
Yeah.
he actually even like leaves the kiss and looks around and sees that he's not in the same place anymore.
Yeah.
Then goes back in.
One of the
It's
most like
such a cool
sweepingly
scene.
romantic moments in Hitchcock's career.
And also kind of like just haunting at the same time.
Yeah.
That's the beauty of this
well,
film.
because
is
at that
it
point
brings both.
we both know, right? It's like that
Exactly.
dramatic irony thing. Like we
Yes.
know
We
way
as an
more than the
audience
characters
know.
do,
Yeah.
right?
Right.
And we're watching that, and we know that this is weird and icky in its
Yeah.
own way, but
But for
also
them,
that
it's
the
just
feelings
passion.
are real. And yeah.
Yeah.
Either way, it's a really complex film in that way, and the central relationship is like got to be an all-timer. But I mean,
So good.
I guess we'll enter the reductive rating round on this one.
For sure.
The highest 5 I could possibly give. This is like a straight up all-timer. I mean, I don't need to tell anybody that. I'm pretty sure Vertigo
Yeah.
is literally considered the #1 film on like the Sight and Sound poll or whatever.
Oh, just ever?
Like among all critics and stuff like
Damn.
that. They do it every year. I'm pretty sure Vertigo has made its way to the top over the last few decades.
That's awesome. Yeah.
I don't think it was there at first. I actually think Vertigo was not the most well-received movie at the time.
Really?
I
That's
think.
shocking.
I could be
Is it
making
just
that
because
up,
it's
but I
so
thought I read that.
surprising? Like it wasn't something that people were used to.
It
I can
would have been
imagine
that.
if, like, for us, we're used to like
People
hard
watching a
endings that are,
Hollywood
like,
noir
Yeah.
would not have gone into this being like thinking that again this is one of the darkest endings I think you could possibly
sure.
have in a film.
And we're used to that now.
Yeah.
Nowadays, we're almost
We almost
expecting the
want
hard
it.
cut. The hard.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. I'm almost like yearning for it. So it's when this happened in this film from the fucking late 50s. I
You're
was
like, that's it? Like what?
you
You're
can
not
do
even
that
gonna
in the
wrap it up?
50s?
Yeah.
like were people like protesting in the
Yeah.
streets? It's craziness.
Yeah.
So maybe that is it. Maybe they were like just so shocked
Mm-hmm.
at this because I can imagine so if they're not
Yeah.
used to this. Because
But I assume it's a 5 for you too.
Yes, absolutely a 5 for me. Absolutely. First Hitchcock film, major success, gotta say. So yeah, this was an absolute masterpiece, and I'm gonna go down the rabbit hole for sure because I have a feeling I'm just gonna love more and more from this guy. I mean, he's Hitchcock, so
I think that's going to be it for Vertigo.
Yeah.
I guess we'll jump into the loose
Porno
Brian De
version.
Palma porno remake of it. Body
Porno
Double.
let's do it.
Body Double.
Brian De Palma, the modern master of suspense, invites you to witness a seduction, a mystery, a murder. Body Double. You can't believe everything you see.
All right, we are talking Body Double, the 1984 erotic thriller.
Yeah, let's go with that.
Yeah, sure, why not? Written and directed by Brian De Palma, a filmmaker we've talked about once before on his Phantom of the Paradise, and a filmmaker who is going to appear on this show a lot.
Loves the trash.
The dude is
Top-notch trash.
one of the sleaziest dudes in cinema, and he was able to somehow get Hollywood budgets to
Over and over again.
fund his pervy mindset.
Yeah.
So very glad to have him, and we're gonna. Jesus, okay.
This film is wild if you haven't seen it. That's really where all these laughs are coming from here, because like
Yeah.
it's basically the once, like we said in the intro, the softcore porn version of Vertigo. And
Is it
Rear
even
Window.
soft core? Is it
Yeah, at certain points it gets there. It gets there.
Yeah, so this film stars a dude named Craig Wasson, who is a dude I honestly am not very familiar with.
Yeah.
I
He
don't,
looked familiar, but I don't know.
honestly, I thought he just kind of looked like Bill Maher a little bit.
A little bit, yeah.
That's
maybe that's where the familiarity was coming from. Yeah.
But he plays a dude named Jake Scully, who, after losing his job as a sort of, I guess he's a professional actor, but he's not making a whole lot of money doing it. He's not like living
Yeah.
that high actor life yet.
And his phobia is the direct reason why he can't
Exactly.
do the job.
Yeah, unlike Vertigo, almost the exact opposite of Vertigo. It's not a fear of heights; it is a fear of
Yeah.
it being
Enclosed
enclosed
spaces.
spaces, very
Yeah.
trapped.
And he very similar to James Stewart in Vertigo, has kind of this petrified thing that goes on where he
Freezes
just can't
up,
move.
yeah.
Like he can't do anything. So yeah. Which causes a lot of issues in the film.
Yeah, and what's interesting about this is that it's almost, in terms of plot, it is a direct riff on Vertigo. It's
Yeah.
the dude.
Yeah, it really is.
The dude has a phobia that's hurting his life, but then he catches the glimpse of a girl that he might fall in love with the image of.
Once
and then,
again, image is a hard, like a big
Yeah.
thing in this.
And then it
'Cause
gets-
he only sees her physically.
Yep.
Especially the first like week that he's watching her or whatever
Yep.
it is.
And then it all gets wrapped up in a weirdo murder plot,
Yeah.
and in which he eventually overcomes his phobia. And so,
In a great sequence, which we will get to for sure.
Yep.
I loved that little moment.
But the thing that Brian De Palma kind of gets at here, and I think that this might clarify the film for you a little bit, is
Sure.
that this is Brian De Palma at possibly his most angry.
Okay.
Because this is having worked in Hollywood.
Really? Like even Scarface?
Yes.
Because I found Scarface more angry and aggressive than this one.
Well, Scarface at the time would have been his angriest film,
Okay.
and I think even Martin Scorsese said the Hollywood suits are going to hate this movie because it's about them. After leaving the film, because Martin Scorsese, who's obviously a friend of De Palma, knows De Palma's relationship with them in getting funding and in getting not being
probably a little tougher for him than
yeah.
some of the others.
He's kind of like just a weird, sad case of a dude who really wants to make a popular Hollywood film,
But his brain won't allow.
but his
him to
brain
do
won't
it.
let him do it because he's so pervy, he's so nasty that the
Yeah.
dude, and it
And
works.
we love him for it.
It works for his
Damn it.
films, honestly, but
Yeah.
it's just it doesn't work. It
For the
doesn't
studio
get the results
mindset.
that he wants.
Yeah.
And
Well, that's odd too. It's just because because I haven't seen any real documentaries on him or anything.
Yeah.
But you have painted him to me as kind of like this guy who does he think that he is making these films? Do you know what I mean? Like these studio friendly films? Because none of the films that I've seen from Brian De Palma even come close to the studio would pick that up and be totally fine with it. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
Is he not aware? Like you'd think that he would know.
I think-
Being friends with Spielberg, being friends with these guys who do it. You know what I mean?
See, I guess what he thinks is he thinks that Hitchcock was a big Hollywood filmmaker.
Sure.
And he was a dude who took established norms and twisted them into dark places. And that's
Sure.
what he sees himself doing. But he doesn't realize
okay.
that he's doing it
does it
like turned
way
up
more
to
aggressively.
11.
Yeah. Yeah.
And that's just it, which is why he'll go back and he'll say his most popular film, his most successful films. I think the ones that he really loves are like Mission Impossible and The Untouchables and these
Sure.
these films that
Those
kind
are
of
more
that kind
acceptable
of
when it
got
comes
like
to-
the acclaim from like a PG audience in a sense. But then he looks back at other films like Dress to Kill and maybe even things like Blowout, and he's a little less happy with himself because he's not.
It's crazy. That blows my mind just because it's like the things that I find most De Palma fans love are the trashiness that he brings to his
well,
films.
that's just it because it's so him. It's so
Yeah.
regardless of what he's doing, it's so personal. But Body Double came out of the fact that Scarface got like torn apart by
Critically?
I don't know necessarily critically,
it was a-
but by his studio people who he would have wanted to make films with.
Okay.
So Body Double is his giant rage at Hollywood.
You can feel it.
Yeah.
There's even that
He
great
directly-
scene with all the interviewers
Yeah.
that are for the audition, and there's like 20 of them just staring at him soullessly, like they just
Yeah.
like, what are you doing here? We're trying to make art, and you're all in suits,
Yeah.
looking at him like, okay, do it, like do what we want you to do. You know?
Yeah,
like,
he directly compares
heartless.
Hollywood film in this to just like pornography, basically.
Yeah.
He's like, there's no
we're
difference.
just gonna look. Yeah,
He was like, you guys think
Absolutely.
that you turn your nose up at trash because you think you're better than it, but you're not.
Yeah, exactly. You just it's all in the underlying context of these films.
Exactly. So what we get is a really weirdo pornographic version of Vertigo.
Yeah, yeah. Quite literally a pornographic version.
But what's interesting is because again the plotting is something he can't do a lot new in, but it's where he chooses to focus that this movie gets really weird because what he does that Hitchcock didn't do in say Vertigo is that James Stewart is a Hollywood leading man.
Yes,
he
absolutely.
he is a dude where you watch him and you're like he is very likable, and he uses that and puts him in a story that is less favorable in
Right.
that light. Brian
and
De
there's
Palma,
a classiness to these characters too, which they do not have.
no, Brian De
this
Palma
one.
takes the Hollywood leading man and literally makes him like just a total pathetic knob.
Yeah.
Like the dude's I don't even know what the word is. Like the dude is just a total, like he's even sleazier than Jimmy Stewart was.
He's just kind of a loser, honestly.
Exactly.
Like it's like, and I almost feel bad. It's not saying it now because I know where kind of the story goes
Yeah.
and like where he
Yeah.
leads his decisions. But in the first half hour, I still felt that way. Like I'm like,
Yeah.
you're kind of a loser, dude. But I felt for him still because I think he was trying and maybe there was some good in him.
Yeah.
it goes places, so that kind of ruins himself.
Well,
but-
because De Palma at every turn, I feel like where Hitchcock leans into the romanticism to the point where you
Yes.
get like a conflicting feeling of, ooh, this is an icky romance.
Yeah.
De Palma just throws away the romance and almost makes
physical.
fun of it.
It's for
This is a movie
I find he's
about
totally
surfaces,
just
right?
Yeah, he's
Yeah.
just sexually attracted to these people, and then he tricks himself into.
He's
it's the same
literally-
thing. You
he's
see
literally-
a beautiful woman, and you just assume that she must be like this goddess because you've tricked yourself because of your infatuation and obsession with her.
Again, yeah, because he's
It's
not
the idea of her.
he's not like the image he's obsessed with is her dancing naked.
Yeah,
And
exactly.
for doing,
That's what he's in love
doing
with.
a rehearsing for her dance that she does on pornos.
Yeah, right.
He's literally in love with a porno.
Yeah.
Like that's the thing.
And he loves porno too. Like
Oh, yeah.
he's constantly watching it throughout the film.
well, that's what happens, right? So I guess we should get into the thing. The main thrust of this is he gets fired from his job because of his phobia. He gets
Yeah.
claustrophobic. He freezes up. He loses
Even
his
freaks
slot.
out on set
He
to the
freaks out on
director and
yeah. So he loses his slot. The director replaces him. He goes home to his girlfriend where. Oh my god, it's so goddamn pathetic. Where he goes home and there's a little like heart with them on it. Like it's total
Like the magnet.
Again, it feels like a dude who's in a relationship. He doesn't realize that girl is not fully checked in. Like
Yeah.
even just looking at the place that they lived together, I was like, dude, get out of that. What are you doing?
Yeah.
But he doesn't seem to get that until he literally walks in on her having sex with someone else.
Yeah, and what's amazing too is I think and maybe it's just so that the audience kind of has a hint of what's about to happen, but the audio clearly shows that she's laughing and fooling around with somebody. You're not in a room by yourself.
Dude,
going,
he probably thought it was like a girlfriend or something, and he was like, ooh.
Right, but I don't know, because he just seems so naive and oblivious to it. And then even when he opens the door and they make direct eye contact, she gives a look at first of shock and surprise
Yeah.
and a little bit of guilt. But then I thought I saw like almost a look of just like you knew what this was.
Yeah, like, what?
Like sure, you're shocked right now, and sure, this is shitty what I'm doing, but you knew where we were. Like
Yeah.
that's kind of what I got from a vibe. Doesn't make her any less of
No.
a good person or a better person or whatever. But then he just leaves. He has no passion at all, even for this woman who he apparently is living with and loves. He just kind of goes, okay, and then just leaves and
Yeah.
goes and grabs some Jack
And
Daniels.
and then he has a performative sadness out at the bar where he's like just freaking out, and the dude's like,
Yeah,
dude,
he's even an
dude-
asshole to the bartender.
Yeah, he's like,
and shit.
dude, stop being a dick.
You're like, dude, like, why, like, if you're gonna yell at anybody, go yell at your girlfriend and the guy that's having sex with her. You go to the bar and you start treating other people like shit. Meanwhile, you just leave. Like,
yeah, the dude is just so naive and so pathetic.
And it only gets seedier from there, right? Because
then we get
that's
into,
when he gets his opportunity for the house and all that.
Yeah, he goes to an acting class, and I love in the background of the acting class where it's like feel, personalize, act.
Cry, man, cry
Yeah,
out.
he's trying to like totally just destroy him in front of the acting class.
Yeah, trying to just break him down into just a mess of a person so that he can quote unquote act.
Yeah, so then another actor in the class kind of feels for him and is like, dude, I see that you're down. I see that you're crushed. Like, I need someone to watch my really, really amazing condo for like a weekend
That
or a
just
week
looks
or
like
whatever.
a satellite dish, like a giant satellite dish.
Yeah, it's got a giant like rotating bed or whatever.
Yeah,
and
it's
like,
just a huge. It's like the Sky Dome over like all of Los Angeles. It's crazy.
Yeah, and then we get
it's badass.
We get a direct rear window riff where he looks through the telescope over at the dude's neighbor who's there, and she's doing a little dance routine. The guy tells her, like clockwork, she does this every night.
Yeah.
So he looks over and he sees her doing a very naked porno dance.
Yeah.
And
Which is kind of, I guess, when he says it's like clockwork, it's kind of the hint of like, why would she be doing this every night at 7 p.m.?
Exactly.
You know what I mean? So that's a great little thing that he throws in.
Yeah,
there
because he knows that he'll watch if he tells him that,
exactly,
right?
Exactly.
And I couldn't believe
So good,
watching this
so
because
subtle.
I was watching this for the first time too, and I kind of knew what to expect out of it because I've seen a lot of De Palma, and I've obviously had just watched Vertigo again too, so I kind of knew what was coming, and I had just rewatched Rear Window too, so I didn't expect how long he would hold that shot of him watching her.
Yeah, it's because eventually
he almost implicated me. I was like,
Yes.
dude, cut away. Like I don't want to watch this anymore.
I think that's the point. It's
He's still
it's supposed
watching
to
at the point
become,
where
like,
you're like, dog,
yeah,
look
like,
away,
this is
man.
Wrong. This is wrong.
Yeah.
But what's also amazing is that the synth and the music that he uses is actually quite hypnotizing, I found.
Yeah.
So I found
It's
myself
romantic.
like wanting to watch, but also feeling like I should not be watching, which
Yeah.
I think is the exact same feeling that he would technically have.
Yeah.
So it's like he's the music kind of tricks you into thinking like, okay, well it's kind of pretty, like
Yeah.
it's wrong because what I'm watching is someone being spied on right now.
Again,
but
he-
it hypnotizes you into it.
Similar to Jimmy Stewart's character, like again, he's looking to project a fantasy of something.
Yeah,
He's
yeah.
looking to find some sort of romance.
He's clearly
looking,
lonely and has no real connections with people.
yeah, so he's trying really hard to like project, and that music feels like his subconscious, like
Yes.
being like, this is something, right?
Yeah, this is kind of like love, you know?
But then the actual content of
Yeah.
the image just makes you go, dog, this feels really icky and personal. Like,
especially after
stop
you've been
watching.
doing it for so long. Like it's not like one of those.
Yeah,
like
it's like a
oh, I'm
full like
curious.
minute and a half shot.
Like-
Like I'm like, dog.
Yeah, he's going for it, and not only that, but throughout the film, he just keeps going back, like
Yeah.
over and over again, to the point where I mean, it's obviously just you're a peeping tom, dude. There's nothing loving about this.
Oh
at
yeah,
all.
yeah. Because at that point, he actually he I think he drives out. He's going to the set or something like that, and he pulls out and he sees her pulling out. Or no, he watches her again the second night,
Yeah.
and he sees a creepy dude, really creepy dude, watching her
From the satellite dish.
dish.
Which
And
is cool too, because at first the sparks kind of give off this
Yeah.
like light show feel to what he's
Yeah.
already watching, and then it just turns into like this. Who is this guy? Because he's got
clearly designed to be a monster,
Yeah.
and clearly designed
Yep.
to be like a
kind of
caricature
reminded me
of
of
like an
Michael
aboriginal.
Myers, but with a more real face looking,
Yeah.
like with his mask mask.
Yeah.
I guess I kind of ruined the ending there, but I mean we're a spoiler show, but yeah, because
He's very clearly designed to be a boogeyman.
yes, absolutely.
And De Palma uses him later in suspense sequences like a boogeyman, like a monster.
He's freaky, man. The
Yeah.
way that they have him in the mall, like when
Oh,
he's
yeah.
stalking, and he's just running through corridors, and he's
Yeah.
got that fedora in the face, and he's kind of like really tall and a little lanky, so he's got this
Yeah, and
creature-like
that
feeling
mall
to him.
sequence is one of De Palma's honestly finest suspense sequences.
so good.
It feels like if Hitchcock were to actually
Yes.
make a movie in the 80s,
Yep.
that
It felt
that's
very
that's what it
Hitchcockian.
would look like.
For sure.
Because the way that he just like puts you kind of like he gets you into the stalking mode, identifying with the protagonist.
Yeah.
But at the same time, you're watching it for so long that you're like, dude, at this point, you are literally just stalking her. I know you think
Yeah.
that you have this vague illusion of protecting her, and it replicates that sequence where Jimmy Stewart follows her for the first time in the car and follows her to the bridge and all of this. But it's even ickier because obviously it's De Palma.
Yeah, and he's just doing it.
And he's spying on
He's
her
not a private
changing.
investigator.
No.
He's just at least James Stewart was doing a job at first, right?
Yeah.
Like he was hired to do something. It's still
Yeah.
weird, but there was a reason for it. He is literally just a pervert. At the one point where he's in the mall and the clerk is like, this dude
Is
is
literally
just, like,
watching this girl change
her panties right now. Like, what are we doing?
Yeah,
Like,
and then
security.
and then think about the touch that De Palma puts in, where if he thought there was even a remote sense of heroism was the true reason that he was doing this, why do you take the panties out of the garbage man?
Yep. And
Like-
keep it in your pocket.
Like,
for
seriously?
the detective to find. He didn't even like I'm not saying steal panties. Don't do that. But if you're gonna do it, maybe store it somewhere. Don't like keep it in your fucking front pocket.
Exactly, but
Like,
but I think
what are you
that's so
doing?
revealing of this character's motivations, which is
And he's
honestly
not thinking either.
no, and
He's
it's
impulsively
different.
moving.
It's different than Jimmy Stewart, who is genuinely romantically in love. He's romantically in love with a fake, fabricated thing, of course, which
Absolutely.
is in its own way sort of weird and pervy. But this dude is just weird and pervy,
Yeah.
and he's trying to find like any sort of excuse for it not to be, but that's all it is.
Yeah.
And it's super weird. And yeah, the mall sequence is amazing. The suspense that he builds in that, and especially the bit in the elevator where he thinks that the dude is creeping on them, and then the elevator
Yeah.
doors keep opening up, and then
And then he gives them the smile. Like it's the
Yeah.
first time the monster, so to speak, sees them like directly, and it sees him especially, I guess, because obviously he's seen the girl, he's after the girl, and he has this moment of like pure fear because it's like at first he was kind of just a guy that's observing this.
Yeah.
And now I think once he made eye contact with the fedora monster, or whatever you want to call him, it was a moment for him that was kind of like, I might be becoming a part of this now. Whatever's going on here, I feel a part of it, because after that, he goes to the beach, and he gets so close to her. He goes, like, on the balcony right above her. I'm like, dude, you're not doing a good job at stalking right now.
Yeah, at this point, you followed her for so long. It's, like, so crazy, man.
Yeah.
Like, you're an insane person.
It's like a 15-minute sequence of him just following her throughout. And it's even after the
De Palma
mall
really underlines, like, the darkness to this bit. Because again, where Hitchcock implies it, De Palma's like, this is it.
Yeah. And what's even crazier is that when the guy steals the purse so that he can eventually get the key to her house and go from there, when he runs after the monster, and just like he's in the tunnel, and then he has the moment where he can't move anymore, and the monster even has this like weird moment where he's kind of like and like does this weird scream and kind of thing.
Yeah.
But then he makes with
it's
the
so
girl.
obviously performative.
Yes.
The thing that the monster's doing, which is really important for later.
Yeah,
and it's also important too that for whatever reason, because at first, because my girlfriend actually pointed out while we were watching it, she was like, this dude is like clearly made to look Aboriginal, and I was like, I was like,
they even call him the Indian a couple times in the movie,
that was it. I was like, yeah, he kind of is, but then the movie actually addresses it, so it was real. And my a buddy of mine on Letterboxd, great writer Neil Bahadur out of Toronto, he had a note about this where he's like, De Palma talks a lot about, he's very critical of Hollywood films just in general. And one of the things he's critical of was the treatment of Aboriginal characters in the old westerns and stuff like that. So that's what this is supposed to be. That he's the performative.
They were always performed as savages.
He was the performative boogeyman. So that's what he's made him in his film.
Oh, okay, that's cool.
So that's what he's kind of done here.
I find it a little odd choice for this film, though. Like,
because
it's not a western in any capacity.
No, but I think he's just trying to get at the idea that like Hollywood is like this big performative porno nasty grossness that they don't acknowledge,
and it's not like we find out later that it's not an Aboriginal guy. It's a
dude acting as one,
right.
Which is what would have replicated a lot of what those actors would have been doing at the time.
Before we move on from that tunnel scene, though, what did you think about the decision when he kisses, like they start making out?
Amazing.
Do you think because I had a question
it's
here.
Sweepingly romantic, but
I read
in
it,
his head only.
Yes, and also because it gets really sexual fast as well. Like he starts like grabbing her breasts and stuff.
Because again, it's literally the Vertigo kiss, right? That you were talking about.
There's the spiral.
It's the
everything.
spinning. It's sweeping. It's romantic, and again, there's that ickiness that happens in the subtext of Vertigo. But in this one, he just starts fucking her on the beach, and you're like, dog. Like what? Like that's not romantic anymore.
Right, exactly. And you
don't even know, you haven't spoken a word to her.
She responds to it. So do you think that what it's saying about her character? Because I actually found that kind of just abrupt, and I was like, I don't know about that when it comes to the character's decision. He would definitely be all for it, but I just didn't think that she would respond so fast to such an aggressive way of going about romantic, actions. Like it's just like I don't understand how she went from, this is a guy that's been following me who warned me about this guy, and in a minute she's essentially having sex with him in public on the beach. Do you think it's because she's like a lonely character and was like the only passion she had?
I read it as a little bit more subjective than that, I guess. I read it as entirely like not necessarily a fantasy. Like I think that she was kissing him, but I don't think that it was quite going as far as the image had you believe. I think that he.
But even the making out, I still feel is a little odd. She must have something where she doesn't feel loved. That's what I thought, and so she found some. But
also he just like saved her thing, and I feel like she's leaning into the.
It seemed a little much. But I understand that the subtext there that maybe it's in his head when it goes that far, but they did make out and kiss.
Yeah.
So that was still a little bit odd for me.
I feel like I think she just thought that she like kind of owed him because he was right. He did technically protect her, even if his intentions weren't really to do that.
It's kind of
he
like
did do that because
that
again,
classic feel of like the hero and then the damsel in distress kind of thing.
Yeah, so
but instead he turns it into the most pervy thing ever.
Yeah, I feel like she was
okay.
just acknowledging her role as she did get protected in that particular instance.
Sure.
But she doesn't know the extent to how infatuated that he is with her.
Sure. Okay. I could feel.
It didn't register that weird when I was watching it, but it's good that you brought it up.
Yeah.
Especially because it's such an important moment. Because I guess we'll kind of jump ahead to she gets hardcore murdered.
Yep. Hardcore.
That
That shot is amazing. When he is on
Talk
the ground
about
getting
a
the
driller
dog.
killer.
Yeah,
first of all,
yeah. through the floor, and then you see the blood.
him
come
underneath.
through
It's like
the-
dropping on his face
It's
and like
crazy. That death was nuts.
yeah, and it's the most cartoonishly huge drill that he could possibly have.
Yeah. It's like 3 feet long.
And the shot of it is the drill coming out of his crotch as he because it's behind his butt and he's doing like a big thing,
right.
and the drill comes straight down from his crotch in, and then it cuts to the shot of it coming through the roof on his shot where it's like,
and then all the blood. Yeah.
and it is just so fucked up.
Yeah, it's fucking crazy. And he's just a frightening character, the monster guy.
Yeah.
So because he looks like a pure powerhouse throughout the film. He's very tall. He's very big.
Yeah.
Yeah. So him just running around with that drill was like an image, I gotta say.
Yeah. So he kills the girl, and the dude gets there and he sees that. The cops question him. They're like, "Dog, why were you even here?" And then they start being
Tom.
like, "Dude, you're just a peeping Tom." And he's like,
Find
"No,
find
no."
the panties.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He starts trying to make up excuses for why he's not.
Yeah.
But either way, he's heartbroken because he couldn't have sex with the girl. Not necessarily because she's dead, because he didn't get to have sex with her.
Right.
He's just so
Yeah.
heartbroken. So he goes home, and of course, the thing that he does is he starts just watching porn on TV.
Yeah.
Which is what you do when
Of
you're
course.
sad.
Yeah. Well, that's what I do when I'm sad.
Yeah, he's sitting in the big rotating bed in his buddy's condo watching porn, and then all of a sudden he sees the dance moves. He's like, "Oh." He's like, this is the dance moves that I just saw the girl that I wanted to have sex with doing.
Yeah.
So he goes and he calls up the porno company, and he wants to get an audition, or he wants to get in there.
Which is crazy that he doesn't just try to go to a meet and greet or something. He's like, well, how do I really get in this? Well, I'll audition for porn.
Yeah.
I'll join porn.
Yep. And
crazy.
this leads to one of the craziest sequences in the movie, where he goes to the porn producer, and he's just like,
Ooh,
yeah,
yeah.
man. He's just like, show us what you got. Go ham or whatever. And he goes in, and it's the big relax sequence, the relax song, which is an all-timer song for me, because it's the song used in Zoolander to hypnotize him to kill the Prime Minister of Malaysia or
That's
whatever.
awesome.
He's like,
I didn't even
"Relax,
realize. That's
don't
awesome."
do it." Yeah, it's such a good song, and De Palma films it like an MTV music video.
Yeah, that's exactly the vibe I got.
Yeah, because again, he's indicting just this entire. He's like, if you think I'm nasty and trash, look what your pop culture is right now. Are you
This
serious?
is exactly what it is.
Yeah, exactly.
Minus the hardcore porn. I mean, it's pretty much there.
Yeah,
Have
and
you
even then
seen
they're all
Christina
just
Aguilera's
wearing
Dirty?
bikinis and they're all doing this, right? So
Yeah,
it's it's
exactly.
not that much worse. But what's amazing is he's looking at pure fabrication. He's looking at the most fabricated thing you could possibly look at, a porn set where
He's
everybody
in love with it.
and he fucking loves it.
Loves it.
He's so swept up in it.
Yeah.
And he finds the girl who's doing the dance moves, and he starts having sex with her,
Yeah.
and he kisses her, and the sweeping motion happens again. He
Yeah.
literally was just in love with the idea of a porn star.
Yeah.
That was it.
Exactly. It's purely physical for him.
And I don't think there's a bigger
And that's the
indictment
difference
of him
with the
as a-
Vertigo, too.
Yeah.
It's where it's we were talking about, there was still some romanticism in this.
There was real feeling by both parties.
They
It was
tear
just
that
twisted.
away in this film and just make it purely about the superficial, just skin, just
Exactly.
sexual desire, and that's it.
Exactly, and
Yeah.
he's again, the fact that he has such a sweeping romantic moment with just a porn star that he's literally said a word to, which I believe what he says is, "I like to watch."
Yeah, yeah.
So you're like, dog, you can't get more glaring than that.
One of my favorite moments too is when they finished the scene and the director or one of the stage guys was like, "Hey, what happened to the cum shot?"
Yeah, because
because
again,
they actually kind of quote unquote make love instead of actually like having porn sex.
Yeah.
So it was like I just thought that was a little funny, but
Well,
also telling of
it's
the
really
character.
funny because that's what interrupts his sweeping romanticism.
Yeah.
Because finally he thinks genuinely that just having sex with a porn star that he met on the set who does sexy dance moves that he likes
is kind of love.
Is love.
Yeah.
That's what he thinks, and then it's interrupted by like an AD in the background being like,
where's the cum shot?
Yeah, dog. I thought we were gonna get a cum shot.
Where's the money shot, man? Paid money for this. Yeah, it's hilarious.
Yeah.
It's such a good part.
Either way, all of this sort of coalesces in the same Vertigo plot, where basically this porn star was hired to be the dancer that he was looking at in the window, so that the actor buddy that he was living with, who is the one putting on the mask and being the monster, and is the girl's boyfriend or whatever, the porn actress's boyfriend,
right?
So that he could kill her. So it's literally the plot of Vertigo.
Yeah. In the sleaziest way.
Yeah, but it's just it's twisted everything so it's even darker and weirder and
just gross.
I was gonna say sadder, but it's not sad because it's more pathetic. It's pitiful.
Yeah. The
it's
tone
pitiful.
is I think that's exactly it. Pathetic is more because I don't feel like I almost feel a sadness for James Stewart in Vertigo in some small way, whereas with this guy I'm just kind of like, oh, you're just totally a scumbag that doesn't understand that you're a scumbag.
Exactly. It's not tragic.
No, it's not.
Like Vertigo. It's more of a sense of this dude is just a loser.
Yeah, and it's even kind of sad because at the end it seems like he overcomes the fear, and Holly, who
he goes back into making porn, basically.
Yeah, and Holly stays in the grave. Which I think, that was symbolism, I'm assuming, for she's still kind of living in the fear, right?
A little bit, yeah. But then she comes out and watches him on set, right?
Oh, does she? I thought that's where the movie ended.
No. Wait, did you watch the whole credits?
Yeah. And,
okay.
And then they have the shower scene with the vampire.
Yeah, but she's watching. Like Holly is there watching him.
Oh, you're right. You're totally right.
So I think it suggests that they sort of spark some kind of relationship. But again, it feels like he's just brought that experience he had on the porn set into his movie making.
Yep.
And which eventually happened. But again, we'll get to the bit where this is the bit where he finds out kind of what happens. He's like, Holly, we got to do something. And then Sam, the buddy whose apartment he's staying in, and who killed the girlfriend. Yeah, he takes Holly to put her in a grave, basically. Yeah. So again, thinking he's the hero.
Yeah, exactly.
What's his face?
Save the day.
Yeah, I already forget his name. Jake Scully goes over to the grave, and the dude like throws him in and then rips the mask off. He's like, I was Sam, bro, the whole time.
Yeah.
And he's obviously having his claustrophobic experience inside the grave. And then he has like this weird fantasy flashback where he overcomes his fear.
Where he does the scene correctly, and then
he's like, I'm going back. You're going to fire me. Like he feels so empowered by this moment, but then he comes back out and he does win, but it's such like an undercut win where he's just like, yeah, I did it, but
I'm still the same person.
Yeah,
like,
and it's the dog that really does it, right?
Yeah. And if anything, it's now validated all the thoughts that he's had throughout the film. Like, I mean, I don't feel like his character has really changed. He's personally gotten stronger just because he's over his fear, but when it comes to like growing as a person and how you should view love, how you should view relationships,
he hasn't changed.
He hasn't changed at all. He's still with Holly, who I imagine he's with just because she's the porn star.
Exactly. If anything, it's empowered all of his worst tendencies. It's made him think that he was right.
Exactly.
When we watched the whole movie, being like, dude, what?
You're fucked.
Yeah. You're an idiot. Like, are you serious? Which is one of the greatest, because again, I think a lot of people at the time criticized this for being De Palma leaning into all of his worst tendencies.
Yeah.
Which is true, intentionally.
But it's intentional, and I don't by any means think that he's approving these things in any way. He's definitely he's doing it in his De Palma funny way, but he's obviously saying that this character is shit. Like, he's not a good dude.
Yeah, so. No, and if anything, he's saying that, and the fact that he has like a conventional "I beat it, I won" ending, if anything, is just another indictment of Hollywood. He's being like, this is the ending that you would expect me to have for a movie like this, where my hero does everything, and look, you validated all of my hero's worst tendencies. Congrats.
Yeah.
And he has one of De Palma's finest endings of all time, where the dude is just He's back on set. He's making the movie. He's got over his fear, but he's still the same dude. He's just over his fear.
Yeah.
And De Palma has the image, which is probably one of the most iconic of his career, where it's just Scully's arm, a man's arm, grabbing a breast,
Yeah.
while blood falls down it.
Yeah. Yeah.
Which is just Brian De Palma. That's the thesis statement of Brian De Palma as a person, as a madman, as a filmmaker. So
Bloody boobies.
yeah, I guess we've gone kind of long on this one. I didn't expect to have so much to say about Body Double.
Yeah, that's good.
But I guess we'll get into the reductive rating round on this. This might surprise you a little bit. This is a 5 for me. It's possible that I'm just so in love with Brian De Palma that even a minor Brian De Palma feels to me just amazing. And again, I think a lot of people would consider this one of his weakest outings, but for me, it is top tier. This is up there with Blowout in Carlito's Way and Phantom of the Paradise as one of my favorites. I feel like this is just De Palma's final statement on all of his fascination with Hitchcock and bringing it into the modern Hollywood that he was working in, and the fact that it's so angry and so vindictive, and the fact that it's taken such a Hollywood idea and twisted it to the point where it's literally just gross pornography. Really, really works for this film. Anyway, yeah, I really love the shit out of it.
Nice. I'm gonna give it a 4 out of 5. It's so strong. Like it was so close to that 5 for me. I guess there were just some minor things that I either didn't really read well enough into yet for me to for it to really sink in.
Yeah.
And then there was a couple character moments that I didn't know if they quite fit, like the one I mentioned before. Yeah. Although with you saying kind of that, like the subtext under it, and maybe the fact that she was kind of just responding to a moment that she was being. It
definitely does feel like he has to do it because that's the Vertigo moment, right? Like he has to do it, and maybe they could have, because again, unlike with Vertigo.
I just would have liked one extra scene where they have a bit of a conversation.
Well, that's just it. Unlike with Vertigo, where James Stewart and Kim Novak actually had a bit of a relationship where they talked back and forth before that scene.
Yeah.
This is happening after a 20-minute stalking sequence.
So you just feel weird.
Which, to be fair, is what I think De Palma is doing.
Yeah, it's making you feel that
But
way,
it also, it does register as kind of odd, for sure.
Just for her character choice. Because obviously he's all about it. I'm not surprised at all there.
Because we haven't had enough of her to know exactly what her decision-making process is. And
I just assumed, the only thing that I could assume was that she was just kind of she didn't have a lot of love in her life.
Honestly, I kind of feel like it's just him
being hit and stuff,
well, that's just it. I kind of feel like this is De Palma being because as an actress, she's obligated to do this. I feel like that's almost kind of what he's getting at.
Oh, okay. So maybe it's very meta in that way. That's pretty crazy. I like the idea though.
Because it does feel weird. You're right, and I think that it's possible that De Palma, because it comes after such a weird sequence where you would feel like she wouldn't do it, that she does do it, is because a Hollywood film would make her do it.
And that kind of makes you feel that sleaziness that the film is trying to bring anyway. So yeah, it does.
Yeah,
work.
Which is the same thing we were talking about with the extended watching sequence where you're like, okay, after 30 seconds we get it.
God damn, I feel gross right now.
Yeah, this is a really gross movie, and it really implicates you as a viewer of it.
Yeah, absolutely. So yeah, I'm gonna give it a 4 out of 5 for now, but I could honestly see this movie becoming Moving a 5 with a couple, maybe even the next rewatch, because it was so close to it. But
yeah,
De Palma,
well, and again, we got to do more De Palma too.
So good. Yeah, I don't think I've less than a 4 for one of his movies so far that I've seen. So yeah, he's one of my favorites for sure.
Awesome. Well, I think that's going to do it for this week's Sleazoids, guys. Thanks so much for joining us on this
thank you.
patron-exclusive Sleazy Journey.
That's right.
Hope you guys enjoyed this episode. If you guys haven't rated us on iTunes yet, go on iTunes. Go give us a review. We'll read it out on the show. Again, thanks for being patrons. We really appreciate having you guys here, and we got lots of great content coming up for you. Next week, free listeners and you guys patrons are going to get a very special episode. We're not going to say who the guest is just yet, but it's a guest we're very, very excited about. And we're going to be talking Stuart Gordon, the exploitation filmmaker, the body horror mad scientist exploitation filmmaker. And we're going to be talking about his films Reanimator and From Beyond, which is going to be a lot of fun.
Yes, very excited.
And any of you who are patrons here and are huge fans of the kind of films we're talking about, which I assume you are, you're going to really appreciate who we brought on to talk about that. But then in 2 weeks' time, we're going to be back with a patron-exclusive episode just for you guys, and you guys will definitely want to hear this one. We're going to be talking Siege films, which I don't even think I've told you this one. Is
that like medieval kind of? Like...
No, it's the films where you're with characters who are kind of trapped in an enclosed space, and things try to break in and fuck them up.
Oh, okay.
And we're talking 2 of all-timer Siege films. We're going to talk about Rio Bravo, which is a Western by, I think it's Howard Hawks, but I hope I'm not wrong when I say that. Western people will fucking kill me. But it's got John Wayne. It's got a lot of great actors in it. And then we got the Loose remake by legendary horror filmmaker John Carpenter, who basically loosely remade the film into Assault on Precinct 13. Which is an excellent film.
So we're doing Assault on Precinct 13?
Yeah, we're going to do Rio Bravo and Assault on Precinct 13.
That's a movie that I've had on my list forever. I've listened to the soundtrack a bunch of times, but I've never watched the movie.
So both of those are all-timer Siege films, and that's what we're going to be talking about for you guys, patrons, in 2 weeks' time. So stick around and you'll get that. But I guess that's it. Keep it sleazy, everybody.
Keep it sleazy.